Hey again, everybody. We've just finished the voting and tallying for the Cruiser Challenge, and you guys all know who the top 5 are. So I just wanted to take a moment to go back through the top 5 one by one in ascending order and just say a couple notes about each of them, because it was a fantastic challenge filled with a lot of really awesome entries that we were extremely happy to see. And the top 5 especially were some of the best work that we've seen come out. So in 5th place we have Andre Costa's Local Motors Cruiser entry, or at least one of them. This first one that got 5th place had a really interesting extreme bend that went forward of the engine, putting the engine outside of the loop of the frame, which we thought was really interesting. In addition to that, like his other entry, the tank also had a really cool sort of facet slash curve design that almost made you think of like the stretched fabric that you would imagine on vintage vehicles in that same era. So we definitely especially liked the style that Andre brought to, in fact, both of his entries, which we'll go over later. Next up in 4th place, we had Cosmin Mendita's Cruiser Carbon version, which we thought was just, it may not have necessarily touched on the vintage as much as most of the other entries, but it was just such a standalone design with the entirely faceted construction and whatnot. And I know that we had mentioned sheet metal design at one point, and Cosmin basically took the idea of using some other material other than tube steel and took it to the extreme, which we really had to give credit for, and it came out in a really appealing overarching design, even though it might not have totally nodded back to vintage board track racing. It was just something that needed to be recognized. Fantastic design. So in 3rd place is Andre Costa again. We had his other take on it, the Schneider Cup Series LM Cruiser, which had similar styling on the tank, but what was really cool about this design was just how the tank actually molded itself into the rear members of the frame. And also, you can't see it from this view, but how the seat actually sat down in right after the tank. There was a nice molded recess for it. Really, the details on the bike, the way that he did the number flag on it, I mean, it just really came together to embody the inspiration that he was going after. So we thought that was a really great effort on his part, with a second entry that, through the community vote, placed as well. So in 2nd place, we have Neo's entry to the LM Cruiser design. We especially liked his entry because you were really able to see, with the amount of revisions and work that he did and updates that he made to his project, just how the project evolved and was dialed in to a design that was, while many designs came out feeling sort of extreme, this one is very minimalist and yet still hits on a number of different points in terms of the inspiration and the board track racer, vintage sort of feel around it, and yet it still has little touches of style, such as the wrap around the tank, or in the case of some of the other versions that he had up here, a sheet metal sort of wing that went under the tank. Just the overall layout of the bike, a lot of people that we talked to found it really pleasing. So I think congrats are in order to you, Neo, for figuring out a way to come up with a design that was, again, very subtle but very recognizable, and that was, for most people, a bike they'd want to ride. And finally, in 1st place, we've got Yannis Vassilatos' Aerial Cruiser, which we were just really blown away with. The overall style, the presentation of the design, the fact that he didn't accept the engine covers for the original engine that you would get from Honda, but instead wanted to augment them with further covers that would enhance the design, but that weren't so overdone that they would make it feel too much like a motorcycle and not necessarily a bicycle. Just the style of how the tank is sitting in there, it really brings out the fact that yes, it's a motorized bicycle, not a moped or a motorcycle, but it's got a style all its own that stands out from the numerous other bike designs that are available if you look around on the web or around in various bicycle stores and that type of thing. So we were just mostly impressed with the idea that he could take that layout and bring it into something so unique, still take off the cues of the vintage flavor and the board track racing, and pushed the boundaries in a couple of areas, like the tank mounting, like the engine covers, and even some of the front end assembly design. That was fantastic work on his part. We loved this entry, and that's why we're going to build it. So once again, guys, thank you for all the hard work that you guys put into this challenge. We were, as always, really impressed with the quality the entries came in, and I mean, we know that it might be an interesting transition to go right from motorcycle competition into a motorized bicycle competition, but you know, just fantastic projects all around from everybody. I think the biggest thing that we struggled with, certainly on our side for the first place, was just we loved all the bikes, and around the factory, or you know, among the people that were joining in the process, everybody had different bikes that they wanted to build. So everybody who participated in this contest got fans through the process, and I think that's important to say. So again, stay tuned for the future challenges that we post up, and other news that's going on the website and the Forge. And in addition to that, I would ask you guys to, you know, as we start to think about topics that, you know, we'd like to develop, or vehicles that we would like to work on, you know, you guys should feel free to go on the website and voice your opinions about the types of things that you'd like to work on next. We certainly have dictated some of them, but we would love to hear more from you guys, the types of vehicles you guys would like to build. And I know that there are volunteers in LM Labs as well that can't wait to start prototyping them. So feel free to get on the website and start expressing some of the other types of vehicles that you guys would be interested in working on. And you know, who knows, again, if it gets enough pickup, we might end up doing it, and I guarantee it's going to be a blast.